have quite a bit of a fat reserve on their bodies. Remember, she's not doing too much flying around, so she's not using a lot of energy and sort of resources, so perhaps she could survive. I mean, I don't think the incubation period is too long. Let me just double check in the book. Actually, I think I'm going to have to look on my app, on my mobile very quickly. I just want to double check to just have a look and see what the incubation period is. Where's a red-billed hornbill? Let's go over here. I'll show you my little app. Let's go in here. Let's go breeding. No, we not need breeding. We need to go all the way down here to all this amazing information. Population, no. Habit, no, we don't want that. Foraging and food, no. Breeding, here we go. Nest, now. Laying dates, there we go. That's what we're looking for. And incubation. This is an amazing app that I'm able to find out all this information on. Just having a look. Oh, let's have another look at the bird. He's come down for another drink. Remember to keep snapping photos. So the incubation period is about 25 days. So that's not particularly too long. I think these animals are so resilient that perhaps the male would have been feeding their female quite a bit of a variety of different insects. And I think she fattens up quite a bit while she's in there, not using any energy. So I think she could survive. It's a hard one to try and give a definite answer, unfortunately. So we just can sort of guess, and we can throw these ideas around. What do you think? What do you think would happen? Do you think she could survive if the male died? Do you think she would leave the nest? What do you think would happen? I mean, this is a really mind-boggling question. This is what I love, is maybe I'll be able and fortunate enough to see something like that one day. Right. Let's go across to Byron, though, who wants to update you on a couple of things.
So we are trying to follow up on some... Whoa! Almost got taken out by a dung beetle. So we're trying to follow up on wild dogs. We've just had an update that they think the wild dogs have crossed onto Vulture, onto Djuma. So trying to get there get into that area very quickly, and maybe we're lucky and we see some wild dog this morning. Problem is they do cover large distances very, very quickly. So I'm trying to get there as quickly as possible, and hopefully we get a sign of these animals. It's very exciting. I haven't seen wild dog here before, so it'll be a first for me to see wild dog in this area. And around this time of the morning, they're possibly still hunting. That's also why they do cover huge distances. They'll just run and try and, not necessarily ambush, but just run down prey. So we're going to just keep scanning very carefully. I'm trying to get into this area where we think they crossed onto our boundary, or crossed the boundary onto our property, and we'll see. These persistence hunters, the wild dogs are known as persistence hunters. They'll run or constantly run down prey. So what they do is they'll run very, very quickly, very fast. They'll work as a pack. They'll work together. No, I think we'll carry on going. Really, I'm just trying to think. You see, it's hard to say exactly where they crossed. Let's have a look. There's some plains across to our right, and there's a little road here. So let's cross onto the side. So as I was saying, these persistence hunters, they'll just run and run and run until they eventually do catch something or flush antelope out a thicket, and then they'll run and work together as a pack to catch their prey, whatever it may be. Generally, they do prefer antelope the size of impala, but I have seen wild dog hunt animals much larger than that. This is very exciting. I'm going to to stick along this way. Trying to see if I can see any tracks, perhaps there's wild dogs running across. There are some elephant off to my right. I'm not going to stop for them. I'm going to try and see if we can't find this wild dog first. Because if you do end up stopping, the next thing you know, they'll be gone, completely off the property. So I'm going to carry on searching while I do that. Let's get an update from Taylor.
So have any of you had any thought as to what you think would happen with the southern red hornbills? I like trying to create these discussions. It's always good to get so many different people's ideas. And then often something you may not think of something, like for instance, you know, at the back of my head, of course, I know that the hornbill, the female hornbill, will shed all her feathers when she's in the nest, but I didn't even think that how that would affect her fly. And just because someone else brought it to my attention, thank you, Peggy. I mean, it's great. So I'd love to hear some of your ideas. So remember, please keep feeding them. Rebecca will let me know when a few of you have said some interesting things. But I'm just trying to look. Here we go. And we might have another glimpse again. Coming back in. Oh, how was that? In the water. I don't think that was supposed to happen. That was quite funny. I think it got a bit of a fright when it realized that it had landed. That was amazing. Come back again, maybe slightly embarrassed now. Let's see if they're going to come back. Now, Thomas, you want to know, once the chick is hatched, how long will it take for them to open the hole? I'm going to have a very quick look. So we had a look. This is quite interesting now. We had a look, and the incubation period is between 25 days to 29 days or so. Let's see how long it takes for that chick to fledge, because that will then obviously be and give us an idea as to how long they'll take to open the hole. So let me just have a look here. There's development and care of the young. Just want to double check, and I always like to make sure that I get sort of those days. They vary from every single bird, and it's almost impossible to try and remember them. So we just keep reading and reminding ourselves. Right, so it seems as though it's about 30 days. So a month that development of the chick will develop. Let's see if we can see those ones moving around. So it's actually quite a long time before they do fledge. So I reckon once they start to get their feathers, so sort of their first few feathers, maybe after about 10 or 15 days or so, once they've hatched, I think that they will open up that hole, that mud hole, and then the female will perhaps start developing feathers at that stage too, and then once she's got all her feathers, I'm sure she will leave and then help with the feeding process. Now, I can't see them at the moment. We're just having a little scan. They've been hopping all around there, though. It's gone very quiet. I can't even hear them chattering a little bit more. Where have you gone? Oh, I think that that's the end of our hornbills. Perhaps they're taking a break. This is sort of the longest interval now that we've had since they haven't come back. Oh, hang on, before I go, let's hear what Laura has to say. Very interesting. Laura, that was a fantastic comment that you made. Laura thinks that she doesn't know if she'd be able to leave the nest because she'd need that energy to sort of regenerate new feathers, of course. And then if she didn't have any feathers to go out and to try and get food, how would she get back in and all these various things? So I think these types of conversations are indeed very important to just try and hear what different people like to say. And that was one of my favorite things as guides. What we would do is when we had some spare time, we would go out and we'd knowledge share and we'd have these wonderful discussions and different opinions and then take it from there and go. But keep chatting amongst yourself. I think a debate is always very important, of course, and just to hear out what everybody else says. Obviously, we don't know for sure. I've never read that anything like this has been documented before, so we can only just speculate as to what would perhaps happen. Maybe the female and the chicks, unfortunately, would die if the male died at too early of a point. See, I can't find anywhere where it says at what age or at what stage of the chick's development does the female start developing the feathers again. Now the requests are coming in for bird nests, and I must admit I've just been lucky to have stumbled across all of them. The crested barbet nest, the magpie shrike nest, which VM helped me find, of course, and now of course this red-billed hornbills nest that we've come across. And I know that Dave was saying that he wants to find a roller nest. Well, we will try. I've never seen a roller's nest before. So we'll keep an eye out. Like I said, this seems to be what the animals are doing at the moment, and particularly the birds is prepping for the laying of the eggs. Some of them have already laid eggs. That's quite amazing to see. So when we see some birds sort of coming to and from the same area, then most likely that means that there's a nest inside there of some sort. I thought it was a fantastic show yesterday when Byron managed to find that white-bellied sunbird nest. I need to find out where that is so we can keep checking that. But that is spectacular. I've only ever seen that once before, and I didn't ever think I'd see it again. But now there's a second opportunity for that. And it's nice to know where all the nests are. Okay, well, let's go down here and carry on for our search of the nkuhumas. We'll leave the lovely red-billed hornbills to do their thing. And like I said, over the next couple of days, next month or so, we're going to be checking up every so often on all these different bird nests. Just jumped down here. I can hear the radio is very busy to have a little listen.
Yeah, really. So we're still looking for these wild dogs. No sign just yet. But I do think we're in the right area. Well, from the update that we got, somebody had seen them crossing. So just scanning very, very carefully. Sorry. Joys of flying bugs, flying into our while you're looking for animals. See how hard it is being a game ranger. Think I'll be alright. Too soon to panic. Alright, let's have a look around here. Carry on. It's so difficult because the wild dogs, they don't really stick in one direction. They can often change directions a lot. So M. Rouse has asked a question. There's an elephant off to the right. Just have a quick look. Enjoying the routes, but let's carry on our search. Lovely to see a little or an elephant around. See some impala in the distance. They seem quite relaxed. If the wild dog were here, I don't think they'd be as relaxed. So M. Rouse, you asked, do wild dogs attack people? I've never heard of an incident with wild dog attacking people. But again, we need to remember they're wild animals, and I think if you threaten them, they'll most likely defend themselves. But I've never heard of an actual attack from wild dog on people. Some wildebeest over here, off to the left. There we go. Also seem quite relaxed. Okay, we're on these clearings again, and think there's wild dog headed around in this direction, but I can't see any sign of them at all. It's very tough. We're the only vehicle in this area, so that makes it even harder. If there were one or two other people around, more eyes, and we could cover a larger distance, we'd probably have more chance of finding them. Let's just see. Back towards this main road again. So occasionally what the wild dogs will do is they'll run into an area, search through a thicker or bit of a thicker area, maybe across through some plains, and then come back onto a road again and run along a road. They often do that. Very exciting, but I mean, I do think that the wild dog are probably the most exciting predator to follow, just because when they do move, they move so quickly and with such intent, and they try and hunt usually twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon, trying to see if there are any tracks around there. So when you are following them, chances of seeing them hunting are very, very good. Got to drive quickly to keep up with them too, because they are so fast. I think Taylor's got some signal again, so see what she's up to. I'm going to continue looking for these tracks.
We've just been seeing an incredible amount of dung beetles flying around. It seems to be like large copper dung beetles buzzing about, which is fantastic because we haven't really been seeing too many dung beetles. Just the odd one that I'd find for James at the tent and some fresh dung. Well, that's exciting. So we'll see if we can actually find any fresh animal dung, and perhaps with this nice warm weather and after the rain, we may be able to watch a couple of dung beetles this morning, and I know that a few of you will be quite excited by that. I know I am excited to see the dung beetles prepping their balls. Well, let's have a look. We're going to have to look on the ground then, of course. And it seems as though the dung beetles are also just surveying, looking for some fresh dung. But let's have a quick look. We're going towards Gari Dam now, to the dam cam, to have a little scratch around here, checking in all these drainage lines that we're passing through. Oh, wow. Now, have a look here. Now you can see exactly what went on last night. Let me go back a bit. You can see all of that erosion as the water has just gushed down into this drainage line and lifted all sorts of different rocks up. So, better make sure that we don't slip inside and create an unnecessary road here. A little bit soft, not too bad actually. I thought it was going to be a lot worse, but we'll just take it easy so we don't slip inside and spin the wheels and make it worse off than what it already is. And now that's something that we're going to see happening hopefully over the next few weeks, is a lot of sort of repairing of the road. And it's something, and it's quite a big job that has to be done on a regular basis, is the maintenance, of course, of these roads, the big tractors and the graders to try and look after them. Checking up in the tops of the trees if there's any birds. Let's go around here. Perhaps while we're here, we'll quickly see how the crested barbet is doing and if they're still in their nest. We'll just head up, and I think let's start with that. Let's go in there and have a look. They're not far now. If it doesn't look like I'm paying too much attention, I'm putting my eyes on scan and just searching through all of these little drainage lines here, these islands, hoping that the kahumas are going to pop back up again. We know that they like it here, sort of just east of the dam and that big drainage system. Well, it doesn't seem like they came out on Central last night. Let's have a look at our little nest. Can you see the nest in the corner over there? Go straight in. To the left, that hole, there it is. That is the crested barbet nest. Let's see if anybody's home. Just sit patiently for a little bit. But perhaps they are out looking for some food. Sarah from Germany, my goodness, you see, this is what I absolutely love about bringing up these debates and these discussions, is you've come up with a fantastic theory about the red-billed hornbills and what would happen if the male were to die and were unable to feed the female while she was in her mud nest. Now, Sarah, you said that perhaps the female may cannibalize the chicks and feed on them. As you said, they're a valuable source of protein, and that could, of course, happen. Now, I'm not 100% sure, and I know that it does sound very cruel, but it is nature, and they will go through to sort of extreme lengths in order to try and survive. Remember that those birds do know that they are going to be able to have a set of eggs shortly after. Maybe if it's not that year, it will be the following year again. Let's hope that that's true. I'm just listening. You can hear some rollers. Seems as though there's a purple roller and a lilac-breasted roller in the far distance having an argument. And it doesn't look like our crested barbets are home, unfortunately. That's all right. I suppose you've got to be allowed to go out at some point. Now, I think my next bet here is to go along Mvubu Road. Well, no. We've got a Wahlberg's eagle up top. That's quite nice. Now, it looks like one of the Wahlberg's eagles that we see. We're not too far from the Wahlberg's nest. They're probably out on the prowl looking for a lizard or a rat or something delicious to eat. Now, sorry, Sandy from I think it was from Canada, you had one last theory about the red-billed hornbills and all sort of birds that are similar, and you've said that often in cases where the male has to sort of feed the female and she relies on being fed by him, entire nests will perish if he were to disappear. However, you mentioned about sort of cooperative breeders, so birds that breed together and live in groups, for instance, like bee eaters. Some of the bee eaters, sometimes we see it with the buffalo weaver and the variety of different birds. And of course the hornbills is that, or the southern ground hornbill, is that then the rest of the group will then collect food for that female. And obviously that's one of the benefits of living in a big group, safety in numbers. And then of course if something happens to one, well, then there are lots of others to help assist with the work. So that's a really good way to look at it as well. And thank you for being a part of the discussion this morning. I found it thoroughly fascinating and I learned lots, and it's definitely given me a few different ideas to sort of work on. So thank you so much for that. Wahlbergs, you're not doing anything today, just perched up on a tree, having a look. Well, this will be a good day because I think we're going to see a lot of movement of the various animals that have had their burrows and holes perhaps flooded by the downpour that we had last night. And of course, it's a nice warm day. And we can definitely expect over the next few days the new green grass to regenerate, which will be quite exciting. You can hear the turtle dove now calling in the distance. Just a gentle breeze. You can see that one feather on the back of the wings of the Wahlberg's eagle. Looks like it's probably due to come out now. It's just fluttering in that gentle breeze. I think you need to pay attention and do a little bit more grooming. That's lovely. But I think let's carry on. Let's continue down Mvubu Road. And let's see if these kahumas aren't somewhere around here. Now, I wonder when we're going to see a leopard again. I really am missing the spotted cats as much as I love the kahumas, and I could quite happily see them every day, all day long. I would like to see something with spots. Oh, there's the dung beetle flying around. Now, it's going to be very difficult to get it. Where's it gone? Is it going to come back? Ah, it's gone. They are so quick. They're like fighter pilots today, zooming around. And it seems to just be the large copper dung beetles. Oh, a hippopotamus. Let me go back for you, Darby. Let me just say when it's... Is that a good gap? Let's have a look from the distance. Now we've got a very happy hippopotamus. Oh, you need to go a little bit forward. Sorry, let me go forward quickly. Oh, look. Ah, Wahlberg's eagle just swooped down right over the top of my head and landed on this fallen log. Perhaps it did see something like a lizard or a scorpion or snake, anything really, and it swooped right down to try and catch whatever it did, or whatever it saw. Sorry, that was amazing. I got such a fright. I just heard something coming down from above me, and I didn't even think that it would have been this Wahlberg's eagle. Wow, that was close. That was beautiful. Now, that's exactly what these birds do, is that they sit up on the trees once they think they have spotted something, and then they wait patiently, and then have a look. Now, let's just jump to the other side. Let's see if we can go forward a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't get too much of a fright, but keep your eyes on that log. I'll try and go as slowly as I can. Just sneak around the corner. There it is. Pop back up again. Perhaps didn't find what it was looking for on the other side of that log. I'm going to take 1 or 2 pictures here because that is just beautiful. Not often that we get to see them down on the ground looking for their food. Isn't that beautiful? We're having so much luck with the birds today. Like I said, as nice as it is to see the nkuhumas, this is spectacular. Look at that. Lovely light catching the bird's eye too. I hope you're snapping away. Going in deeper for further investigation. Now there's a birch starting that's landed above it, which may cause some distraction. We'll see if it's going to mob the Wahlbergs, so you can see it. And back up onto the log, trying again, very persistent. I mean, this Wahlberg's eagle could have been sitting up on that dead tree for quite a long time, maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes or so, waiting for that perfect moment. There's definitely something in there. What it is, well, we're just going to have to wait and see and hope that this Wahlberg's eagle catches it. Back up again. Very interested. That is amazing. These are probably some of the best photos I've ever got of a Wahlberg's eagle. Bill from Dalesburg, welcome and thank you for watching the show. Now you're wondering if we ever see snake eagles. And you're wondering, if we do, would they tackle a mamba? Now, we do. Occasionally, we see the brown snake eagle, which is quite beautiful and very obvious by their massive and large heads. And they would definitely take on a snake. They are specialists at catching snakes. Now, a mamba, as venomous as it would be, it would definitely not miss out on the opportunity to eat a snake like that, but really anything. They're not just limited to eating snakes. They'll eat in a variety of different things, from even mammals, little mammals like a squirrel or something. I've seen them eating mice and rats before, but of course they are specialists like these birds do. They all have a speciality. And of course for the Wahlberg's eagle, it seems to be lizards and the smaller things. And of course we watched the Djuma, the African harrier hawks with those very bendy legs. And they're able to stick them right down into the bark of trees and pull up things that may be living under the bark. But isn't this beautiful? Really not giving up, this bird. That is so lovely. I really hope you're all taking shots, because this is probably easily one of the best sightings I've ever had of a Wahlberg's eagle. I can't take my attention off of it. Especially this light. It's not too harsh just yet. Look at the way it walks. Rebecca says that this is quite mesmerizing. I agree, Rebecca. This is amazing. This is lovely. And it's quite nice to see them up close as well, because often when they're perched up in the tree, you don't realize how small these eagles actually are, and off it goes into the distance and probably going to try again elsewhere. But not a particularly big bird. But what a stunning sighting that Wahlberg's eagle gave us. Anna Marie, I have to agree with you. Anna Marie says that she'd love to have the eyesight of a raptor, even if it would just be for a few minutes. I agree. I wish I could actually just be a bird for a little bit, and perhaps a big eagle, or maybe even something like a vulture that's able to reach great heights and be able to soar across the open sky looking for all sorts of beautiful things. It is warming up quickly. Just a moment ago, David and I said, oh, it's not too hot. And we were planning about when we're going to go for a run. And now it seems as though it's turning out to be an absolute scorcher. Here comes the dung beetle. Can you see the dung beetle that's buzzing around in front of us? We're going to see if we can try and get it. This is going to be quite difficult. It's about just behind the tree. It's settling down. There it is on that, I think it's buffalo dung there. To the left. It was buzzing around on, no, it looks like zebra. There it is. Can you see it? Look at the dung beetles. They're there. I think I need to try and go a little bit closer. What do you think, David? Okay, let's go. Now we know where they are. They're not going to fly anywhere. Let's be a little bit naughty. I'd say that in about 20 minutes after an animal has defecated, you'll see the dung beetles all in and around and in their dung while it's nice and wet. And the reason for that is that it's obviously easy to sort of move around and mold. Now you get all sorts of different species of dung beetle. There's so many of them. Obviously they're in the largest family, the Coleoptera family, which is the family of beetles. You see that one having a good little clean. It doesn't seem to be working just yet. Just cleaning its little antenna. And there's a variety of little midges and all sorts of other things inside this zebra dung. And if you're looking carefully, it almost looks as though the dung is alive, how it's all moving occasionally. What are you doing? You're cleaning yourself. There you go, moving its back legs. Perhaps the mites are being a bit of a pest. But as much as of a pest that they are very important to have mites. When the dung beetles are moving around, they secrete a liquid around their joints, and the mites will actually feed on that and get rid of that sort of secretion. And if they don't, unfortunately, the dung beetle will become sort of stuck together and unable to move. So there's a whole little ecosystem on a dung beetle in itself. Come on, get to work. We came here to watch you roll a big pile of dung. Oh, and off it goes. It took off. How was that? It opened up its wings and said, right, I'm out of here. Obviously not the right type of dung that it was looking for. Isn't that nice? The first dung beetles that I've seen doing their thing since I've been here. All right, I'm sure that Byron is missing you quite a little bit. So I think let's go back across and find out how his wild dog search is going.
I am indeed, Taylor, but unfortunately we haven't had any luck with the wild dog just yet. I'm not giving up too soon. We've really had a good look around this area where we think that, and there are some other guys now and that are trying to help find them, but we haven't had any luck just yet. Let's see where this other vehicle goes quickly, and then we'll move on. But it just shows you how quickly they can move and where they can disappear to. It really is incredible. And I think just as quickly as they crossed onto our property, they could easily have crossed off. So the thing is, we just need to keep looking, and hopefully we get some sign of them. But it doesn't look like there's been any sign of these animals just yet. I'm going to take another quick swing. Watch out for these dung beetles. But it's so exciting and a little bit frustrating at the same time to know that the wild dog are around here, but then just to struggle to try and find them. But you know, that's the thing. Now, wild animals, they move wherever they want. You can never guarantee where they're going to go. So when you do find them, it makes it so much more special. You understand? Especially the wild dogs, because they are so rare and endangered. Trying to see if I can't see any tracks, but again, the soil is very hard at the moment. And the wild dogs, I mean, they're not very heavy animals. They're not large predators at all. You might see some scuff marks from them running across the road, but I haven't really seen anything just yet. It sounded like Taylor's had a wonderful morning with all the birding too. The birding's been amazing. We've seen so many interesting birds this morning. There's a lot of birds calling. Still, I think the highlight for me was the red-chested cuckoo. Passing another vehicle. See, everyone's very excited now because of all this wild dog activity. So people are all trying to come out and see if they can find them. It's a predator that we don't see very often, so it is very, very exciting. Morning, everyone. It's so nice to see so many people on safari, enjoying their safaris. Hopefully getting to see lots of wildlife while they're out here. So David, all the way from Napa, just wanted to know who maintains the roads in this area, in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve where we are. So David, it's usually up to each property, where the ownership of each property. Those properties will maintain the roads to an extent. Usually with us driving up and down on the roads remain maintained. When you start getting heavy rain like this, what happens is then every now and then we may get a tractor that'll come out and just fix certain areas that are being eroded, if that is the case. But generally we try not to make too many new roads. The roads that have been established in the past, we stick to those and we use those. A few of the vehicles are waiting in different areas, just trying to see if they get a glimpse of these wild dogs running through. It's starting to warm up though quite a bit now. So I'm also sure that they may go and settle down at some point, especially if they've eaten a lot this morning. Then they'll probably settle down a lot sooner. If they haven't eaten as much, they'll still try and hunt until they get something to eat. Would be great if we find these wild dogs. We've got to scan so carefully because these wild dogs move very quickly. If they do go through an area, you'll get these little glimpses, these flashes of these dogs running. I'm surprised we haven't seen any leopard signs yet. Very, very interesting. I haven't seen a single track. I'm not sure if Taylor's had any luck with any leopard tracks. I don't think so. I haven't heard anything from her, so... Yeah, so no one's had any tracks. We're approaching another dam. Just have a look in this area and see how much water is here too. I think this is Treehouse Dam, if I'm not mistaken. There's an elephant. Let's see if I can get a glimpse of that elephant for you. Just hiding behind those shrubs, behind that tree. See there? I think it's going to be a really, really hot day again. Okay, let's just go have a look at this water hole or this dam up ahead. Let's see. I see a little bit of water there already. Yeah, not much. So there's a bit more water, much more water than yesterday when we passed through here. You can see it's actually, what's happened is, let me show you. So up to the right, where VM is filming there at the moment, is focused on there, you can see that little pool has filled up. That was dry yesterday. And then it's basically overflowed a little bit. You can see the catchment, how it has funneled the water down into the main part of the dam. I've got a question from someone from Indiana. I'm not sure, I couldn't copy that name properly, about the Sabi Sands, if it's still in a drought. So Dave, sorry, it was Dave that asked that. Dave, even though we had the rain, Dave was asking, is there still a drought within the Sabi Sands? Technically, yes, and the drought doesn't necessarily mean no water, it means no food. So at the moment, we still need food to grow for these animals. So I would say that there is still a bit of a drought, but if it continues the way it did last night with the few thunder showers and the amount of rain that we had, I think we will get out of it very quickly, but we need a lot more because it was such a dry season and such a bad drought. So we do need a lot more. I can see little guys under there. Have a look at that. Some dwarf mongoose. Oh, there we go. Not quite the pack animals we were looking for, like the wild dog in large packs, but these dwarf mongoose are very gregarious. They are very gregarious. Always in large family groups. Rebecca was saying, looks like they're as fast as wild dogs. They are moving very quickly. Off they go. Nice to see the dwarf mongoose. Alright, we're going to carry on our search. We're not going to give up just yet. Who knows what we find. But Taylor's got a very tall animal and a stripy animal for you to look at.
We've got two beautiful zebra bottoms and a very tall animal, like Byron just described, of course, the giraffe. But there's in fact a whole herd of zebra that are going to come out, so we're going to just sit here as they sort of funnel out and then surround this giraffe. But you can see he doesn't mind the presence of the zebra too much. He's too busy tucking into breakfast. Isn't this lovely? Now hopefully they're going to play follow the leader. And seeing as one has come out of the thicket, out of the drainage line, perhaps the others will follow. This is very nice. Now, we don't seem to be having any luck with the Nkuhumas this morning, but everybody else is playing ball, which is fantastic because it's been the other way. It's been as though the Nkuhumas have kept stealing the show, and the other animals have sort of been hiding away from us. So I suppose they get to have a chance every now and then. They're coming over for some cuddles, and of course zebra are quite social creatures too. They're often seen grooming each other or playing, and of course nudging heads. Here we go. I think that little one in the middle looks like it's perhaps going to rest its head on the back of one of the zebras. That's the best way to have a snooze when you're out here. Not fun. And then after we've finished up over here though, we are going to have a look. Whoops. Sorry, I've got 16,000 people trying to talk to me. Goodbye, Game Drive Radio. Off you go. And then we're also going to go and have a look at the vultures. Now you can hear so many different things calling in the distance. Let's have a little listen. Now that very prominent that you can hear, that sounds like it's a brew, which often sounds very much like a telephone. There are some cicadas also in the distance making a little bit of noise, and an array of crickets, and probably locusts too. And of course the chitter-chatter of all the smaller birds, from the tawny flank priniers, to I'm sure some apalices, and I'm sure I can hear the odd white-browed scrub robin calling in the distance, and of course the sunbirds. There's lots going on after the rain, now that it's warmed up nicely. Look at that young foal trying to sneak a suckle. You actually look like you're getting a bit too big to suckle. It's quite cheeky. Isn't that a beautiful shot? Tail working overtime as usual to swat those flies away. Isn't this beautiful? Very nice framing, David. That is stunning. I think that is such a lovely shot. And it's quite nice. I'm happy to see that we've been giving the animals quite a bit of space now, obviously barring the lions because they don't mind it too much when you're close to them. And it seems as though the zebras are very relaxed with us being at this distance. Normally we always spot them as we're driving past them and they get a bit of a fright and run away. And we're actually quite far away from them, probably about 50 or so meters. And now you can see that giraffe being completely surrounded by the zebras. Isn't that lovely? Now we're looking at this beautiful family of zebra, all going about their day. Some of them look like they're getting ready to have a little bit of a siesta. And Fiona, you're wondering if a zebra allo suckle. Now, I've never seen it before, and they're quite similar to horses. So what I do know is that occasionally you can get a surrogate mare, but now that is normally introduced sort of by humans. If you find a mare that's perhaps lost her foal, and then somewhere else, unfortunately, a mare has died and the foal has survived during the birthing process, which is quite common, and then normally you can match them up. And the mare who lost her foal will usually take to the new foal, but it's not always the case. Sometimes they can be rejected. So out here, I don't think it's as common to see a zebra allo suckling. It seems as though they're only really tolerant of their own foals. And like horses, we normally see foals sticking right close to mom and not venturing too far away. But I'm not sure. I've never seen it really. I know it is possible for zebras to have twins, though. That poor mother would have a lot of work on her plate. There you go, you can hear as a I'm sure you heard that, grasshopper coming past us, the stridulating. We're hearing occasionally of the back legs. Everyone seems to be happy And often all these sounds that we hear are either territorial calls, or perhaps it's even the males are searching for a mate with whichever insect it may be or bird it may be. Don't worry, zebras, give it a week or so and you'll have lots of new grass coming through. I'm sure they'll look forward to that. What a beautiful morning. I'm going to count the zebra quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's a nice size herd. About 12 or so zebra here. Maybe there's a few that have already dashed into the thicket. Now that looks like a stallion to me. Very big and thick neck, broad body, and of course the swagger that only a stallion can pull off. Here we go, going through to greet. And this is what the stallion will do, is he'll constantly keep strengthening the bonds between the different members in his harem. But of course he will have a favorite mare that he'll spend more time with, where he will groom her and just sort of show a little bit more affection than what he would towards the others. That's quite funny, looking over the top. Now, depending on how long this stallion, he does look like he's the boss in this herd, would stay in this herd, I think he would just have one female. But if he were... Oh, very quickly, let's go to Byron.
In front of us. Look here, everybody, we found the wild dogs very, very briefly. They might actually end up crossing our boundary again. They're just crossing up ahead. Hang on, I'm going to try to follow them. Like I said, I mean, they cross and move so quickly. There they are, straight in front of us. Fantastic. What a nice surprise. So they've been wandering through this really dense, thick area, and they've just come out into our view now. Oh, this is wonderful. Not sure how many there are. I can only see 3 at the moment. So I'm not sure if this is a large pack. I don't see any others. I just see the 3. There they go. Aren't they beautiful? African painted wild dog, or African painted dog. Wild dogs, very, very rare and very endangered. It looks like they're going to be crossing our boundary very soon. And there they go. I'm so glad we got to show you these dogs just before they cross again. See how quickly they move into an area and then out again. Very, very quickly. So it sounds like this pack is a pack that has been seen fairly regularly, and it's known as the Sabi Sands half-tail pack. Oh, they're drinking at the moment. Hang on. I'm just going to try and get... There are other vehicles around here, so I'll try and get us into a position. They've got in front of us now. And then they're just crossing over our boundary. So apparently the Sabi Sands half-tail pack has only got 3 members in it. The other dogs apparently died because of a canine disease called canine distemper. And apparently there's 2 males and a female in this pack. They've just crossed our boundary now, but I'm so glad we've got a brief view of them. And well, wasn't that fantastic? It was exciting. A bit frustrating at times trying to find them, but at least we got a view of them, and that is really, really great. Any sign of wild dog is amazing, because you don't have many of them around. To be able to see them coming through a property very quickly is incredible. So that was really, really great. So I mentioned that the rest of the pack had died from canine distemper. So it's a canine disease which is caught, and it kills them very, very quickly. I don't know much about it because I haven't really come into contact with packs that have suffered from it in the past. I know of one pack in another area that died and it wiped out an entire pack of about 15 wild dog. And it works very quickly. Within a week, the wild dogs die from it. But I'm not exactly sure how it affects them. I'll have to try and find out more about that for you. But so apparently this pack was a lot larger, but some of the other dogs had been affected by the canine distemper, which killed them. But that was incredible. Yeah, they've crossed right or across our boundaries south, and they've headed south. So I remember actually, I think this pack I know have been seen on Londolozi too, so much further south. I remember seeing them or reports of them being seen there around August, September. So they obviously cover huge distances, and the wild dogs do. They really cover massive, massive distances. They'll have, I've watched wild dogs before where we cover about 10 kilometers in one morning. And Leroy has asked us a question. He would like to know, where do wild dogs sleep? So Leroy, wild dogs will sleep wherever they feel comfortable. They'll find an area, usually a well-covered area that they can take shelter, from the sun during the day, and then at night they'll probably sleep in an area where it's a little bit thicker to avoid other predators. Wild dog are mainly diurnal, which means they're active during the day, not like lion and leopard that are nocturnal or predominantly nocturnal, which means they're more active at night. So Leroy, they'll sleep just about anywhere, but they will look for some form of shelter. And then in winter, that's the time the wild dogs usually den. And when they are denning, they'll find an abandoned termite mound, something that perhaps maybe a warthog or an aardvark has excavated a little bit. They will then go in, excavate that a bit more, and they will use that as a den. And the alpha male and female will mate, and they will give birth to pups. And she could give birth, I think I've read, up to 10 or 14 pups in a pack. And looks like we're in time for coffee. Some of the guests enjoying their morning coffee on their safari. Morning everyone, morning, enjoy. And so as I was saying, so the wild dogs, once they den and they give birth to these pups, the alpha female looks after those pups in the den site, and the rest of the pack, when they go for hunting and when they feed, they return to the den site. Every day they'll return to the den site and they actually regurgitate food for the female and for the pups when they get old enough to eat meat. And then from about 3 to 4 months, those pups start following the pack. And they won't necessarily help with the hunting, but they will follow the pack when the pack do hunt, and they will then move out of the den site completely and roam around their territory. What a fantastic sighting. Very quick, but that is often the case with wild dog sightings. It can be quick, and they're in and out of an area very quickly, and then they're off again on the hunt. But I do think they're going to start settling down. The fact that those wild dogs went straight to that water hole, or that little puddle, quickly had a bit of a drink, shows that they are getting quite warm now. They're probably going to go look for some shade and rest for the day. And later this afternoon, they'll most likely get active again, just as it cools down, and they'll probably try and hunt again. Looks like, what was that? Thought I saw an elephant. I think it's just a large termite mound. It is indeed. Planes flying over. A lot of the guests fly into these lodges around here. Most of them have got their own airstrips. Makes it very easy for the guests to arrive. So they fly in from Johannesburg direct to the lodges. So they arrive in the morning, usually from their overseas flights, and arrive at the lodge, and by that afternoon they're out on their first game drive. Let's see what else this morning holds for us. So Anne from Durban has asked, what happens to the non-alpha and male and females, or the beta and the lower down the hierarchy, the wild dogs? Do they not come into estrus at all? No, I think it is suppressed by the alpha male and female, so they don't come into estrus. I've heard in, I think, 1 or 2 instances where a beta female has mated with the alpha male and has fallen pregnant, but it's very seldom. Usually it's only the alpha female that will give birth to pups and raise the pups. The rest of the pack is purely there to then help raise those pups and look after them. And if something happens to that alpha pair, then the next in line, the beta male or female, they will then take that role as alpha male and female. So our hard work paid off this morning. We searched and searched and searched. We thought they were in an area. Luckily, one of the other vehicles managed to get a glimpse of them moving through that thicket. And they let us know. And that's, again, the importance of teamwork, working together to search different areas, because the chances of finding animals then are a lot better. Winter Prism has asked us a question. She would like to know, are the wild dogs on the endangered list? Yes, they are. They are indeed on the endangered list. I'm just going to stop in the shade here for a second. They are indeed on the endangered list. Very rare, very endangered, and there's a lot of research going into protecting wildlife, the wild dogs. And Winter Prism would like to know, but are there efforts in vaccinating them against these diseases? To be honest, I don't really know how much research is going into vaccination of these diseases. I think sometimes it's actually unavoidable. They can't do anything. But there is constantly research and what's the word now? I've gone blank. There's research being done on the wild dogs constantly, and they are trying to protect them, and the conservation going into wild dogs is very, very active at the moment. And there's a lot of trying to, well, what they do too is they'll try and take packs from one area and move them into other areas. The reason for that is to prevent too much inbreeding, so to hopefully increase the gene pool. That is also one of the killers of wild dog, is interbreeding or inbreeding rather. So that does affect them. So there are actually a lot of issues with wild dog, and that's why they're so endangered. The main issue, I think, is because of man's increase in encroaching on natural habitat. The natural habitat that wild dog would use has decreased, and that has dwindled the numbers substantially. That's probably the main reason, but also the diseases and other predators. You know, they're not very high on the predator hierarchy, and not that they get hunted, but if they come across any predators, especially lions, the lions will kill them purely because it's competition. So, and they are not nearly powerful enough to defend themselves against lions. Oh, and speaking of endangered species, Taylor's got a very interesting one for you to see.
remember I told you this morning that I could hear the southern ground hornbills calling quite close to that buffalo carcass? Well, here they are, and I wonder if they are perhaps not going to come across and try and feed on this buffalo. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go forward, because I don't want to block their view. We know how shy the southern ground hornbills can be. So let's go forward and see if we can get a view of the vultures on the carcass, and then perhaps they will come towards us. So I'm going to pretend and move away from them, and then we will just sit quietly. I can see a female, or maybe even a juvenile. They're all around us here. So I'm going to just find a nice spot where we've got a view of the carcass, and then we're going to sit still, because if we don't, those birds are probably going to move away from us. So now we're going to sit here and not reposition again. I know it's quite difficult. We can't really see the hornbills now, but let's be a little bit patient. Obviously, it'd be really amazing if we could get them going onto the carcass. I think the vultures are full, and that's perhaps why they're not right here eating at the moment. And maybe we disturb them just a little bit coming in. Of course, the hooded vulture not going anywhere. You can see that vulture feces now on the back of the buffalo from where they've been jumping around on top of it. And in it goes. Hornbills, come back. I think that's exactly what's happening, is they've picked up on the scent of this buffalo. Now, James Richard, you've pointed out a fantastic sort of thing that the vultures sometimes do, and I believe you said they do that in the States, where they'll defecate on their legs to try and keep themselves cool, and sometimes I believe that it can act as an antiseptic as well. Now, we don't really see the vultures doing it, but a bird that we were chatting about, chasing the hooded away, is the marabou storks do it particularly well, where they do defecate on their legs, and that's often why you see them with white legs. In fact, their legs aren't actually white, they're grey and black in colour like we see with the vultures. So that is a bird that does it very, very well, the marabou storks. Still having a feed. You can see now the flies are really gathering all over this carcass. And the dung beetles are around. Everybody's out today after this rain. I think it was obviously just enough rain to soften the soil nicely. And perhaps, is this going to be the rain where we're going to see the explosion of termites? I'm not sure, but I'm hoping it will be. I love that scene with the hooded vulture standing on top. And of course, the whiteback eating away, not too bothered anymore. Now, even though it's just the two of these vultures here, the others are perched up in the trees and around the area, and I'm sure when they feel a little bit hungry, they'll come back down again. Now, Sarah, you're wondering how much of this carcass will the vultures eat? They're pretty much going to eat everything except for the bones and, of course, the skin. They can't eat the skin, so the hyenas are usually good at taking care of that. But everything else, oh my goodness, they're right above us. It's going to be, I don't know if you're going to be able to get this. They are all over us. They've now seen the carcass, so they're all coming into land. And this is also quite nice to see. Even though they are circling, notice how they are descending as they're circling. So this is something to look out for. Oh my goodness, they're everywhere above us, all coming down. So this is going to be fantastic. We'll just sit in the same spot. Remember, often you can get confused when you see vultures circling in the sky. You can mistake them if they're catching thermals. But remember, if they're going downwards and not sort of getting higher, then you know that there's possibly something dead on the ground, and that's what they're going after. But let's see, they're slowly coming down. It's beautiful. My goodness, please don't poop on us. We should have brought an umbrella, David, as protection. Oh my goodness, look at all of them. Now, we've seen quite a few vultures that are perched up. My goodness. That one almost hit us on the head. It was so close. It came in. No, sorry, Sylvia. Sylvia, I want to know if the vultures ever get to the point where they've eaten so much that they can't fly anymore. And I think if they desperately need to, they'll be able to fly. But normally what we see is after they have fed and their crops are nice and full, they'll perch themselves up on a tree and then do a little bit of grooming. And that's a beautiful shot. I may even take a little picture. They're posing so nicely. Ah, that's lovely. What a beautiful day it's been. The birds have been on form this morning. It has been a wonderful birding day. Probably, I'm actually quite confident in saying that this could be the best birding day I've had in a very, very long time. It's quite difficult to top the day when I saw 6 Narina trogons in one game drive, and I know that Byron showed you a photo of the beautiful Narina trogon. But this has been pretty spectacular, getting up close and personal with all the birds, seeing them building nests, seeing them groom themselves, seeing them feed. We've seen so much different activities. Oh my goodness, Byron, you are having such luck today with all the reptiles, and let's go and see what Byron has got for us now.
Alright, so we found the other tortoise species that I was speaking about earlier this morning, a leopard tortoise. Moving away from us now, just behind this tree. Hang on a second, it might come out on the other side. Let's just wait and you'll see the shape of this shell or carapace compared to the other one. You can see it nice and round, much larger than the Speke's hinge-back tortoise. I wonder if it's going to settle down there. I don't want to disturb him too much. They can get much, much larger than this. It's the largest tortoise that we find in this area. And but beautiful patterns on it, on that shell or that carapace. The leopard tortoise. I think what happened was we saw it just as it was drinking, this little puddle in the middle of the road. So as we were talking about earlier, all this water around now, these little creatures start coming out. So this is really fantastic. It's the second tortoise we've seen today. It's just hiding in there now, probably looking for some shade. I'm not going to disturb it. At least it got some water, so that's good. They need a lot of water. And this time of year now, with all this rain, is fantastic. I'm so glad we got to see a leopard tortoise. Not quite the leopard we were looking for, but a leopard tortoise nonetheless. Alright, let's see what else we can find. Taylor's got some aggressive birds apparently that she'd like to show you.
Finally, we've got the feeding frenzy we've been waiting for. I'm not going to do too much talking here because I want you all to crank that volume up again and just have a little listen. Isn't this incredible? Some serious arguments going on now. Oh wow, look at them really having a go at each other. And this is it, fighting to be the number one, to get the best bits. This carcass is going to disappear very quickly. I hope you're taking lots of screenshots. Oh, look at them having a fight over a piece. Squabbling. It's like they forget that there's a big carcass right in front of them and there's more than enough to go around. I think that the little gap is obviously so small. They're all having to put their heads in the same spot. Darby, would you like me to go forward a little bit more? Are you sure? Like, that maybe not a little bit better? That's, I think, a bit much better. Here we go. Sorry, I just rolled forward. Stealth mode. Come on, hyenas. Hear all this commotion and come and join us. I hope that you are all enjoying this as much as I am. The last time I saw vultures on a carcass like this was when a hippo had unfortunately died. And that was many months ago. Did you... If you had your volume up, you would have heard the African fish eagles calling as well. And that's a bird that surprised me. I didn't think that they would scavenge very much. And the one day I did in fact come across an impala that had died next to a river down in the Eastern Cape, and I saw 2 African fish eagles quite happily scavenging on it. So that's another bird that will make use of any opportunity. But isn't this absolutely amazing? I almost don't know what to say. It's so special. And I love how they open up their wings to try and intimidate the others, to make themselves look bigger. Now we're really only just seeing the hooded vulture on here now. The white-backed vultures, and of course the hooded vultures have been around and keep coming in occasionally. But unfortunately, they're being bullied by these larger whitebacks. Now, Fuzzman Sparkles, you're wondering what are the chances of a leopard-faced coming here? Quite large, actually, with all the vulture activity that's been going around. That perhaps we may see one. So we'll sit here patiently and see how this all unfolds. But they're not as common around here. And when we do see the the leopard-faced vultures, we seem to just see 1 or 2 of them come through. And then, of course, the white-backed vultures have to take a step down because those leopard-faced vultures are massive. Wow, wow, wow. So it sounds like Herbert is sitting in final control watching the show. Hello, Herbert. Herbert had a funny comment that Rebecca passed through to me. Herbert said that they run like tootsies. Now, tootsie probably sounds like a strange word, but it's what you'd give to a criminal, basically, but sort of perhaps somebody that's not very well dressed. Look at them having a go at each other, but sort of very grim and grimy looking, and maybe walks with dragging its leg. And they are quite funny. Not the tootsies, but of course the vultures are quite hysterical. There are hundreds of vultures in the sky circling. It's quite difficult to try and catch them exactly though, because they're all spread out, but they are coming in. Oh, I keep not wanting to talk because the flies keep going in my mouth. I just had one go into my eye. I don't know what to do. And I know where those those flies have been sitting. Now, Kathy, you're asking a great question. Kathy, you want to know what role do the flies play in the bush? Now, they're very important, especially the larval stage is probably the most important part, is that firstly, they lay the eggs on the dead animals, and the larvae that hatches, the maggots, then devour the carcasses. So they're very good decomposers. And then, of course, the flies themselves are food for many different animals. Can we have a look at that vulture that's got its wings open? I want to show you how full its crop is. You can see their crops fill up very quickly, that big bulging thing below its neck. Now this one is full, almost just warming itself up, sunning itself up, just taking a little breather before it goes back in again. but massive wingspans. That must be almost 2 meters. Oh, there's so much commotion going on in here. Thank you, Vulture, for posing so nicely. Look at all of them. They get very angry with each other. They're not shy. Very much the biggest and the strongest will be the one that eats the most. Look at them all. Kicking and shoving and pecking each other. This is a real feeding frenzy. Also trying to keep an eye out to see where those hornbills have gone, but I think they've gone away from the vehicle. We know how shy they are when it comes to us, so I don't blame them. Perhaps they're only going to come to this carcass once we've moved off. My goodness, I'm going to have to very quickly put some sunblock on while you watch these vultures. The sun is scorching at the moment. David, would you like some sunblock? David's got lovely olive skin. He doesn't need the sunblock like I need it. Oh my goodness, that was a high jump. Look, a bit of mixed martial arts going on in here. Oh, shoved off. Being pushed off the top of the castle. It's almost like king of the castle here. Look at all the flies that are surrounding us, the midges. Now, oh wow, you can see they're being quite savage with each other and really having a go. And I know that Emma wants to know, would there ever be enough violence between the vultures that one would die? I've never seen it before, but it wouldn't put it past me. They can be quite savage, and especially if you get a whole lot of them sort of ganging up on one, perhaps it could succumb to some injuries. Look at them. Now, children, there's enough buffalo to go around for everyone. Be patient and wait your turn. I love how they stamp their feet. That one that we're looking at now, every now and then it raises its foot and stamps it down onto the ground. They are such beautiful animals. I'm strange though. I like the vultures. I love the hyenas. I think the uglier they are, to me, the more amazing they are. But of course, that's just my opinion. Wow! Coming in for a second go, or a third or a fourth go. Oh! The one that's got his head in the buffalo's bottom didn't seem to mind being landed on top of. And that's what those long necks are for. You can see there's not very many feathers on the head, and that allows them to stick their heads into these crevices and reach in and pull bits or chunks of flesh off like that. They are very funny, these birds. Sure. Not letting go there. Well, there's lots of them. Isn't this amazing? Well, I think we're going to have to head across to Byron, though, who has had an incredible drive this morning, and he has got one last little surprise from you, but we will catch you a little bit later.
Another surprise indeed, Taylor. Look at these. We found the lions. Well, Herbert, our dear friend Herbert, have a look at this male. Let's just see what he does. Our dear friend Herbert was driving around and he spotted these lions not too far from camp, actually. We saw their tracks earlier this morning, so they obviously moved around while it was still cooler, and now have found a little spot to probably rest during the day. Oh, look at that male. Now, what he is doing is, and let's see if he turns and faces us with that snarl. No, he's not doing it again. So, what he was doing is he was actually smelling the female, and what they do is it's known as a phlegm grimace, and the male lions have this organ at the back of their palate called the Jacobson's organ. And what they do is they taste the air, they taste the urine of the females usually, and what they do is they push that scent onto their palate, a little bit of a yawn there, onto their palate, onto that organ at the back, the Jacobson's organ, and that allows them to tell whether or not the females are in estrus or not. That's known as phlegm. There are a number of animals that do it, but it's really great to see the lions do it because they pull their face and it looks like they're snarling, or sometimes I've heard some people refer to it as smiling, but it's them trying to see whether or not the females are in estrus or not. I just saw some movement to the back, possibly I think the rest of the pride moving around there, trying to find some shade. It's getting very, very hot now. But this is great. At least we know where to look for them this afternoon. So Leroy, who is a new viewer, has asked, do we ever get scared, or do I ever get scared while watching the lions? So Leroy, no, I wouldn't say I get scared. I do have a lot of respect for them though, and I won't try and get too close because I know how powerful they can be, and but I'm not afraid of lions. I think also in my experience guiding and spending time following and tracking animals, you know, we need to remember animals are still more afraid of us than we are of them. And as long as you don't push the boundary too much and you don't threaten them, they'll avoid you just as much as you'd want to avoid them. So it's nice to find these lions, and they are resting, and I think we may do the same. Wiem, what do you say? We've had a fantastic morning. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Thank you to Wiem on camera with me this morning. Thanks to the ladies back at FC, the voices in my head as I call them. And we will see you all this afternoon. Head back to Taylor, see what those vultures are up to, and enjoy the rest of your day.
They're still eating away, as you can see. And I'm wondering where the rest of the vultures have gone, because they circled overhead and then they've now disappeared. Perhaps they've just perched themselves on some trees in the distance. Well, the frenzy is starting to die a little bit. I think that the vultures that we're looking at have started to sort of eat their absolute maximum now, and they possibly can't fit anything more into their crops. A few more are going to give it a go. And this always reminds me of what it would be like to sit around a few million years ago watching dinosaurs feed. Perhaps some gregarious dinosaurs, they're carnivorous of course, and I think this is as close as I'm ever going to get to it, with all the different sounds and the behavior. Isn't this just amazing? And I've got some interesting and good news to tell you. There's a lot of these little insects that are flying around at the moment, not just the normal flies, but it seems to be, and I managed to catch one very briefly, and it looked like the alate of an ant. And I think that we just had the perfect amount of rain, and perhaps the explosion of alates for the ants is currently happening. You can actually see them occasionally around the vultures as well. You'll see them fluttering, not those big flies, but you'll see something finer with longer wings coming through. Another big argument, which is quite exciting, because that gives us hope that perhaps in the next few days we're going to see the explosion of the termites, which is going to be very, very exciting. Look at them all fight each other. Oh, I'm getting very angry now. A new set of vultures circling are coming over us now. And perhaps they'll find a spot to land and then come through. Here we go. He's opening his wings. Well, I don't know if it's a he or she. Now, remember yesterday... Oh, my goodness. Look at that one getting attacked down on the bottom left. Yeah, I showed you. I reckon that's what that one had to say. Now, trying to tell the difference between male and female is almost impossible. I tried to do a bit of research yesterday, looking in all the books and comparing photos. It is very difficult. They're very, very similar in size. Ooh. This is incredible. This is what I wish anybody that comes on a safari could see. It's one of the most spectacular things in the bush, and apparently it's David's first feeding frenzy as well. Now, unfortunately, it's come to that time where I'm going to have to say my goodbyes, but they're just going to be quick ones, so I can leave you watching the vultures. But I hope you've enjoyed the show with all the birds today, and I look forward to this afternoon and see what surprises we have for us. So have a fantastic morning or night if you're heading to bed, and we'll catch up with you this afternoon.